All right, I'd like to call to order the March 25th, 2024 Mountlake Terrace Planning Commission meeting to order. Would you please take the roll?
Chair Batista,
Here.
Vice Chair Harrison,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Commissioner Landis. He just got promoted to panelist, so he may not be able to quite yet. I'll come back to him.
I'm here.
Hello, and hello, little one. Commissioner Stenson. Here. Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Commissioner Betcher is asked to be excused from tonight's meeting.
All right, would anybody like to make an excused absence for Commissioner Betcher?
Motion to excuse Commissioner Betcher.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 3, approval of the March 11th, 2024 meeting minutes. Anybody have any changes or corrections? I am not hearing or seeing any. So we'll go ahead and declare those accepted as presented. Item number 4, public comment. Let the record show there is no public in person here. Do we have anybody online who has signed up in advance to speak?
No one has signed up in advance to comment, and no one is available online for comment.
All right, we'll move on to item number 5, comprehensive plan update.
Want to come help me?
Yeah, we can,
Well, if I go here.
here's what we can do instead.
Okay.
So we can do this. We can go here, open this up. We can share screen.
There we go.
Then we pop that into full screen. F11 or F5? I think F5.
Or down here.
Ah.
I believe, no. Here we go. All righty, let me move this. I think there's an echo. Do we hear? Echo?
I might have heard.
Okay. Get rid of this. Oh, why is it saying leave webinar? Well, do this. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So tonight we're going to go over where we're at with the comp plan. So we're going to give an update on engagement activities, where we're at. We're going to introduce the economic vitality element that we're working on right now, and we're going to distribute to you guys the environment and rec and park open space policy matrix for you guys to provide comments on within the next couple of weeks. So for engagement activities, we're doing an open house tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. here in council chambers. We will be feeding folks, and we will have childcare again for this. And we're focusing on things that you have all participated in and commented on, as well as the CPEG. So we're presenting the revised vision statement that's been worked on for community feedback, and then the 4 elements that have been worked on so far: land use, housing, rec, parks and open space, and environment. Originally, there was supposed to be some sub-area conversation. I've yanked that off of the open house, and the reason for that is I think we kind of did a kind of a broad outreach the last meeting, and we're working with an engagement folks, and I want us to have some really pointed engagement with those 2 sub-areas. So we're working on that instead of kind of being like, hey, everybody's commenting on necessarily the sub-areas. I think we need to get more specific on that work that we're trying to accomplish there. So we'll be getting that, but we'll be getting that in a different way than what this is going to look like tomorrow, which is kind of more broad, I guess, and focused on the other topics as well. And then we're going to follow up engagement with a series of workshops, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We've hired a sub-consultant, the VITA agency, to help us, and part of that is their work is also for equity and inclusion and trying to reach populations that we may not have been successful at reaching, or trying to make an attempt that we're getting the word out to more than kind of the usual folks that are tuned in and seeing the stuff that we're doing here. So hoping to reach more people for feedback. So talking about, I kind of jumped, but working with the VITA agency, again, we've received an updated community engagement plan. We've been working on comment on that and refining that a little bit. And then we'll be doing that public workshop series this spring, talking about some additional topics, specifically, like I said, sub-area planning and reaching those people in our 2 sub-areas more specifically. And then we've been coordinating with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission on engagement. We met with them last week to go over our goal and policy language for them to have comments on that. I think some of those folks will be joining us tomorrow as well, participating in the open house. And then we're continuing to work on the draft environmental impact statement, which is getting put together right now. We're shooting for a draft. There's both a draft and a final environmental impact statement. So after a draft is completed, then that gets disseminated for a 30-day public comment period. And we're required to required to reply to all the comments that we received during that draft plan. And that's where you folks will have a hand at looking at the alternatives that are in there. And we're going to focus what that looks like for crafting what would be your guys' recommendation to City Council. So that's happening right now. There's a lot of transportation work that's being done as a part of that, as well of doing transportation planning and modeling in addition to the land use and the other things that we're doing. So all that work's really important to feed into this draft environmental impact statement. So we will be working on that, shooting for tentatively, it's looking, I'm hoping that we'll have something by the end of May on that to send out to the public as well. And then working on, again, equitable engagement, so focusing on reaching different communities that haven't necessarily been part of the process, trying to start building different relationships with different groups throughout the community as well, not only for this effort, but moving forward in the type of work that we're trying to do, and having those folks on board as collaborators with us. And then removing engagement barriers. So we typically have, hey, show up to a meeting and do this, but are there better ways that we could go to people in some cases, or we can provide information online or surveys or other things. I have kids, I'm working 2 jobs, those type of things. So we're making sure that we're getting people's input as well, but different than what we've historically done in the past. So work continues on that as well. And I think that's overall of just trying to engage everybody as a whole. I think everybody's busy. You know, do you have time for an additional meeting to comment on this? But we can try to make it as friendly and easy as possible. So for policy review, we're starting the introduction this evening for economic vitality. We have an element, and we also have an economic strategic plan that's getting worked on right now with Leland and Associates. So they're working with us on comp plan, but they're also working on doing a separate document. And that document's looking at the next 5 years in the city about strategic things that the city can do to promote economic development, job creation, and those type of things in the city. So this kind of will go hand in hand. The document they're producing will be a little bit more short term. This is more strategic as part of the realistically 10-year kind of overall comp plan. So we'll introduce it this evening and then distribute it to you folks at the April 8th meeting, and then discussion will follow on April 22nd for this. So for economic vitality, our purpose is to establish local economic growth and employment business opportunities, where we're going to put commercial spaces, not only town center, but where can we do that in other commercial nodes or neighborhood commercial centers throughout the city? Where does that make sense? Providing policies as well to guide our economic development approach, and including policies to mitigate commercial displacement and improve access and opportunities for economically disadvantaged communities. So again, that's, do we just have one place in the community or a couple of places, or are we trying to provide commercial and economic opportunities in various locations throughout the city? So the proposed draft goals, currently there are 3 of them, is to cultivate a resilient economy by diversifying and expanding the city's economic base, to strengthen community and growth prosperity through supporting local businesses and entrepreneurship, and to promote a distinctive regional identity driven by a connected network of neighborhood commercial nodes and an amenity-rich town center. So next steps for you all is we introduced the environmental element to you already, and the rec and park open space elements. This evening, you're going to receive a printed copy of those elements, and also we'll disseminate those electronically to you all. And then I believe we have an what's our timeline for that, for the Planning Commission to provide comments? Is that 2 weeks?
So we will be having you submit your comments by April 1st, 4 p.m. We ask that you use track changes and please put the initials on the end of your documents. If for some reason you cannot do them electronically or would prefer to do them in paper, you can always bring them to City Hall. We'll be happy to scan them in for you.
And then we'll discuss them at our next meeting on April 8th. And I realize that that's a tight turnaround, and we also have a holiday this weekend as well. So hopefully you'll have time to do it. I believe we'll give you a couple of updates like we did last time for your comments, just as you get busy, to remind everybody, hey, we would welcome your comments on this as well. So just going over the, I think it's pretty standard as to some of the things that it should look pretty similar to what you did last time, where we have existing goal and policy language, and then the draft has new goal and policy language. And then you can see where you'll see where the Comp Plan Advisory Group has had comments on some of these, which have been left here for you folks to see as well. And then staff has also made comments on these as well for you to take a look at, and then an opportunity for you to provide your comments as well. So whatever way, I think I was told that everybody responded electronically the last time. I don't know that we got any handwritten comments, but if you need to, for whatever reason, then however we get them is good. So is that pretty self-explanatory since we've already been through this one time? Seemed like everybody was good to go and on board. Okay. So Shannon will give you some paper copies today to take a look at, and then again, you'll get them to Shannon by April 1st at the end of the day, using track changes or any comments that you guys have, and then we'll go over those at our next Planning Commission meeting as well, to review everybody's comments on these documents. So upcoming meetings, we'll be discussing your comments on environment and the rec park and open space. And then you're going to get distributed the economic vitality goals and policies. Then on April 22nd, we'll discuss those, and you'll be introduced to the transportation element. We have a sub-consultants working on transportation for the city, and they will be presenting at that April 22nd meeting for you all. And then we'll distribute those goals and policies for your review, and then we're into utilities and capital facilities. So never a dull moment as we roll through spring. I also wanted to let you know, and I think it would be helpful if you all had a copy of this, and so I can make sure that you get it, but it's tracking the whole comp plan process. I mean, I printed it out because I'm old school and like to see things both electronically and printed. It helps me think better, or so I tell myself. But it goes all the way through your Planning Commission review, and when you guys start your public hearing process as well for the full document, and then the handoff that will occur for your recommendation to go to city council and what's tentatively anticipated for their review as well. So you guys will be reviewing the full document this summer, and I believe handing it off to city council in September, first part of just September, and tentatively they're working through it. September, October is kind of the plan now. The reason that there's been a little bit of push on getting that done is it's also budget time for the 2025, 2026 budget, and council has to have that adopted before the end of the year as well. So as with all things kind of pile up at the end of a year. It just so happens that we have budget process this year as well. So hoping to get this, keep this going. And if that happens, then we just start moving right into development regulations a little bit early. Some of them we have to have done by June of 2025. So that would help us anyways. I'm anticipating that we're going to be working on a full-scale development code changes for zoning and all types of things next year. So you guys will continue to stay very busy in all things comp plan and zoning and standards as we move forward, since we'll be basically kind of starting anew with a lot of our zoning districts and what those look like from what we've had historically. So are there any questions on where we're at comp plan wise?
Anybody have any questions? Miscellaneous, don't want to forget you.
No questions.
Okay. I have one, and it's probably going to be jumping the gun a little bit since
Sure.
we're, still working on the transportation element. When it comes to, some of the stated goals, especially with creating better connectivity, sort of rectifying our historically poor street network, will the transportation element actually identify potential linkages that can be made, or is it going to be more high level that will sort of correspond with whatever the suggested zoning changes are, like with the preferred alternatives, and then still kind of leave it up in the air to what would entail in terms of transportation wise to match sort of the land use changes?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things going on. So some of you may not be aware that our development code for transportation standards is lacking. And you guys looked at some of those standards that are being reviewed by council. So that's kind of something that we need to put in place right now with development going on. Part of what the consultant is working on is not only just the element in the comp plan, which is a little bit more high level, if you will, goal, policy, transportation planning stuff, but they're working on the transportation master plan, and that's going to get more specific. So that work of the element, the plan, along with the environmental impact statement is going to kind of dovetail together, if you will. So where you're going to see those recommendations is going to be in that plan, which accompanies the comp plan and is referenced as part of the comp plan. So the element, little higher goal and policy stuff, and then we get some meat on the bone in that transportation planning process. And you guys will be seeing that as well. So, and that's the work that you need with all the data collection and all the work that's getting done right now by the transportation consultants. So that you'll see that in the, as part of the EIS work, and then as part of that transportation plan coming up as well. So, and you'll be able to comment on all those things, transportation, so. And what I'm anticipating is, even though we put some standards in place right now, that with a updated transportation plan and an updated comp plan, we can go back to those development standards and tweak them if we need to, which I anticipate we might need to do that in some cases. So that's kind of how that's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect, long-term picture, especially, say we go with the preferred alternative 3, which, sort of the most intense
Yeah.
changes, especially in some parts of the city, historically, what has been there, all these decades. I can easily imagine new street network connections being made, parallel to 44th, 48th,
Yeah.
to really help support the more type of probably intense development that we would see on 44th, 1, and then 2 would help sort of provide a little bit of a buffer to those, houses that aren't going to be as intensely upzoned. We're focusing closer to the arterials, but
Right.
less change away from the arterials. Really, that's kind of the way it should be too, because, sort of that transportation-oriented development, you want it to be within that,
Right.
that walk shed.
Yep.
Not expect somebody who has to weave their way through the spaghetti network, a half hour just to,
Yeah.
on foot, just to get to the bus stop, when in a gridded reality, it would have been, like a 5-minute walk.
Right. And, and with that, the challenges of critical areas and those type of things that you have to work around, but where you can make connections, and where you can't, realize that there's some places where we're not going to be able to make those connections throughout the city. So
228?
that would be a consideration, right? Where you're like, oh, I don't think I'm going any further right here. So,
I've only been yakking about it for 20 years.
yeah. So,
Anybody else? Don't be shy.
they're ready to review the matrix and provide comments, I'm sure.
All right.
Right.
Sure, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chrissy, I've been really eager to get like the word out in the community about like the open houses and some of the engagement, particularly, I live in Melody Hill. And so it's like, when I saw like the sub-area plans were happening, I'm excited to see what the VITA agency can help us with that and stuff. I think it was like on slide 3, I saw like a super awesome flyer or something. And I'm wondering like, when you're sharing out these events, if like we can, like, I would love to like post that in my neighborhood or to like
Absolutely.
share it with my neighbors.
Yeah.
Right now,
Please.
we're just like texting people to be like,
Okay.
come, this is happening, to try to get more engagement,
Yeah.
just through word of mouth, but.
So we've kind of went out and posted it around. Last time we got some help from the DEI committee as well, but yes, absolutely. You want to tape them up somewhere that somebody lets you, or hang them on a bulletin board. We welcome any of that. So, and then also if you have some ideas for the VITA agency of specifically getting to your community in a best way maybe to approach that, we're all ears as well, just to hear about that. So,
Yeah, I knew it. There's some of those in the hallway.
yeah,
Awesome,
So here
yeah,
she
I'll
is.
take them.
I figured that's what she was doing.
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, like if you guys do these again, sharing them with
Yeah.
us, I will share them with my neighbors and post them around.
Absolutely.
So I'd
We'll
love-
we'll have them next time for everybody to take a stack if they want to. I know
Awesome.
Shannon's been out posting them around town. So maybe you've seen some of them, but the more we can get the word out, we really try to hit it on our website, social media, push. And so, but any extra helps that somebody that maybe isn't hooked up to the city's social media or, website or whatever, would be walking into a restaurant or a store and be like, oh, hey. So that would be cool too. So looking for that as well. So,
Awesome. Happy to help out that way. And then even just seeing the list of some of those strategies that the VITA agency has listed, like happy to volunteer and help out with
Okay.
that as well as a community member.
Yeah, perfect.
Those sound like some really great strategies to just be like meeting people where they're at and getting out in the community.
Yep,
I'm excited to see Mountlake Terrace just like approaching this a little differently and just love the structure you guys have here and just like how you're working really hard to engage with the community. I think it's awesome.
great, thank you. Yeah, the more the better. The more people that have input, then our document's just going to be that much better than if we're kind of working in a silo, which sometimes, you know, when we look behind us, you know, voices sometimes get very limited, and we don't want that to happen, particularly about, you know, why didn't nobody tell me? And how come I didn't know that this
Right.
was going to be next to my house? And so, you know, everything that we can do to make sure that people are tuned in or have an opportunity, then we want to do that. So the stuff from the open house is also getting translated into Vietnamese and Spanish, and that will go on our website within, before the end of this week as well, for people to have an opportunity to see that as well. So we're trying to do everything that we do in a open house or in a kind of bigger input that is translated at least into the two largest populations besides English speaking that we can as well to get output. We also have translation opportunities for people of different languages that we can use in the city. If we're not hitting somebody with that, then there's opportunities for other people. So we also don't want to limit that just because it's a small population,
Right.
that somebody can be able to do that too. So
Nice.
we're working on that as well. And I think that you'll just be seeing more and more of that as we move forward in the city. So being a little bit more proactive in that approach. So
Love that.
good. All right. Chair Batista.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, having gone through a couple of these comp plan cycles now, it does seem like, you know, we kind of have a few more consultants than usual, but I think that's, you know, each one has their kind of own specialty. Whereas like in the past, it was usually just one, or if they outsourced it, you know, maybe we weren't as involved with that. And so, you know,
Yeah.
it was probably off the radar. But being that there is kind of these specialty consultants coming in, we are kind of more aware of it. It kind of piques my curiosity, especially when we know like further outreach is going on, or, you know, sort of refining and retooling and trying to reach. Will we sort of get a follow-up on that to what the consultants identified and, you know, what they recommended and what the city did to sort of do that additional outreach?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can get you the plan as well, moving forward, kind of the draft and the final plan, without a doubt. So there's kind of two schools, and I would say consulting's changed a lot since I've been in the profession as well, where there's firms that kind of do everything in-house. And so they have the transportation people and the planners and the, you know, outreach people and all of that, which OTAC does. I think what you're seeing is things are getting more specialized. And so there's always been people doing different things that make it all come together, but you're just kind of seeing the project manager that's working with staff typically and not seeing the other folks. I like to see the other folks. I like to see the people that are actually doing the work, to have a conversation with them, because I can talk about transportation planning and I can, you know, tell you all the buzzwords and I can tell you about public involvement and all that stuff. But being able to have accessibility to the people that are doing the economic planning, that are doing the transportation planning and the other things, I think that's good. Because they also need to hear what you folks have to say and what the community has to say. So that's why I like to see them when we're talking about their stuff be at the work, open houses and other CPEG and other things, so they can hear it directly versus I'm typing on my computer in my office and I'm, looking up goal and policy language. Hopefully, we're going to get a better product that's going to be, directed at Mountlake Terrace more specifically. Yes, we have certain things that we have to do for the state. Get it? We have legislation, but it should reflect what we're trying to accomplish here in Mountlake Terrace and not just be like, we're pull a plan off the shelf and we have the same goal and policy language as everybody else.
That was going to be my
Yeah,
next
because
question.
that's like,
Because you see that, especially when you're reviewing the, when we did the request for proposals, sort of reviewing those applications that come, that came in, some, were better than others, but you kind of get the sense, it's like, how, with some of these companies, how much is it just, we kind of develop something in-house and that's what we just sell to everybody?
yeah.
Kind of off-the-shelf, cookie cutter, we're charging you a buttload.
Yeah.
We're not really putting in much effort, because we did the work 5 years ago on this, and now we're just getting royalties off of it.
We're retooling the widget, yeah.
Versus something, more bespoke.
Yeah.
And, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you guys actually took the time to see, kind of what our thoughts and goals are, and, work with staff to try and, craft something like that. So, I'm always kind of curious when I see and of course I haven't looked at the ones tonight yet, but, even like, there'll be all these goals and policies, but even staff has comments. And,
Right.
And so you start to think, well, wasn't staff sitting down with the, with the consultants when they were?
So
doing these?
we are crafting it, but we're also considering, after we have initial drafts that, what did the CPEG say? What is Planning Commission going to say? We've worked with this community. We have an idea what, a lot of times what's going on here. Somebody from someplace else doesn't really have any of that background. So that's why, we're, for lack of a better term, we're making the sausage. And that's why it's important that everybody's got their hands in it. So, as we said earlier in the slides, this is draft. There's nothing that's like, somebody presents, here is the draft plan. And you're like, because, who knows? And when it's something that we have to do, then we're going to say, hey, we have to address this because of House bill, whatever. But other than that, no, I think that's why everybody needs to be involved in and fine tune it to the point where that we're ready to have a draft of a plan that you guys then are going to look at again before you make a recommendation. So.
And then a little bit of, clarification. You talked about, you're kind of putting the sub area stuff to this, the side, especially, for this, open house. But you also said that we're still talking about those elements, just not under the umbrella of the sub area, but more of just updates in general. So you're still going to be touching on the things that kind of, I know the Planning Commission has mentioned as part of what we'd like to see in the sub areas.
Right.
And what CPEG has sort of mentioned. So that's still getting discussed. It's just not under, these are ideas for the sub area. It's going to be approached more, this is what we're thinking of for the city. And then, it just happens to be these locations have X, Y, and Z, and this is how.
Right, I just thought it was too general, the stuff that was being forwarded to us, and I didn't want it to be general. I think we're beyond that, and we need to get to more specifics, and we need to do specific outreach to those areas. So instead of just kind of doing a broad brush stroke of, we're doing sub-area planning, well, I don't think we were. And so that's why I wanted to yank it and be like, we can do better, and we need to get this out to those sub-areas. So I just felt like we weren't putting enough effort into that to include it with this workshop that we're doing tomorrow night.
It's an interesting concept, obviously, doing outreach to residents, but a lot of the comments and ideas that came from us in CPEG, especially when it came to taking a different approach to kind of our aging apartment stock. It's like, well, you can reach out to the current residents there, but, they're not vested owners. So
Right.
there is, it just naturally, there's there's residency turnover. So some of these projects might be 10 years plus away still. And maybe they'll never change. But, the odds of an apartment dweller in one of those complexes still living there in 10 years, I'm not saying it's not
Sure.
impossible.
Right.
But the odds are low. So it's kind of interesting when you do the outreach, especially to those residents, is it, I guess it's two questions. One, is the approach a little bit different because they're not necessarily long-term residents of the city, or maybe they want to be long-term residents and, they apartment first, they like it so much they want to stay and, find something else, or, it's a place for them for a couple of years and then, then they're going to move on. So maybe their feedback might be a little bit different versus, say, a homeowner who either is really for having their property rezoned and, upzoned, or really against it because, they don't want to live next to something now that's going to be, 5, 10 stories or whatever next to them. So, that's kind of, sort of question one, and kind of lost my train of thought. I was rambling too much.
Well, let me.
We'll stop with that
Yeah,
one and maybe it'll come back to me.
We'll answer that one. So I think those are probably going to be the hardest people to reach for this type of process anyways. But I think, yes, there's people that are living in multifamily. There's also single-family property owners. There's business owners. There are industrial property owners that are part of the other sub-area. So I think there's a mix, and I think we want to hear from everyone. I would say we live in a very transitional time anyways, and so I may own a home here, but unlike previous times, even 10, 20 years ago, I may own a single-family home right now, but that doesn't mean I'm going to own that single-family home in 2 years either. So I think we try to get as much input as we can, because each of these areas are varied in what they have going on here. But I think folks those folks will probably be a little bit harder to reach, but we are trying to reach out through the district as well, through the school district, and hoping to get the word out through there as well. So that could be a mix of families, both people that rent or people that own. So just, again, trying to, reach out for input from all the people that live here as much as possible.
So I know for me, ashamedly, so I'm kind of a Luddite. I don't do social media. I wouldn't even go to the website if it wasn't for the fact I'm on the planning commission. I read the city happenings. So if it was in the city happenings, I would find out about it.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
But city happenings, gets mailed to every mailing address
Yep.
in the city.
Yeah.
But with, especially these apartment complexes, the owners, sometimes they're single owners, or individuals, but in most places they're corporations that own these, and most of those corporations aren't local. They, because it's their property and they would have the say of whether or not they want to redevelop or not, does the city do any kind of outreach to them to even to try and, like how we do outreach to the residents, do we try and do outreach to, those sort of corporate entities as well, just to put it on their radar? Some of them might be like, no, I'm fine. This thing was paid off decades ago. It's just money in my pocket. I'm good. It's like parking lots downtown, Just,
Right.
Owned by somebody who lives in Spokane and they just like the money coming in. They're never going to think about it. They might be the same way, but others might, if they're more in tune with what's happening in this region, they'll be like, oh yeah, 2 light rail stations, property values going up and population's going to boom. I can really reimagine how this land is developed, and, it might, it would work out for me, and it would work out for future residents.
I think it's a mix. So we have people that are local, that have developed, that are pretty in tune, that we communicate with a lot. We also try to post at those locations of those buildings specifically, if they have bulletin boards and other things to get the message out to the tenants. So we have those. And then we have the folks that don't live here that are in an ownership group somewhere else that probably don't really care. So, I mean, I think we try to approach it all the same, trying to get to the people that are actually living here. But there are local people that have developed some of these more recent developments that are, Seattle and from this area. And they're pretty in tune to what's going on here at the city. So, and they'll provide input as well or make a phone call. So, yeah.
Sometimes it feels like the only thing that, gets any kind of response out of them is when some sort of monthly bill goes up. Or their taxes go up, then they're paying attention, but otherwise, it's kind of off the radar, it's one piece of a large portfolio, so it just.
It can be. I mean, it depends on who the ownership group is, and those vary too, right? Is it international? Is it national? Is it local?
Or even possible that, they might be sort of a disinterested remote party, but somebody local who has the means is like, hey, this is a missed opportunity, and then they make an unsolicited offer and say, hey, we're interested in buying this. You know what's going on here?
Yeah.
Or maybe they won't tip their hand too much because then the price will go up.
Right.
But, okay, I just kind of curious, especially because, you were talking about Melody Hill. We've got a large aging apartment complex in Melody Hill.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that I'm thinking that's probably going to be redeveloped in Melody Hill is more of the multifamily and commercial properties before, anything really changes over with the residential, but also by Safeway, tons of apartment complexes. So it's just like, it's great if we have all these plans, but then it just sort of ends up sitting on the shelf because they're all, out of state owners who just want that monthly check rolling in and don't care.
And it can be, or you just never know when things are going to happen. So, I mean, we can try to guess and we're going to be wrong. And a lot of that's out of our hands. Are the feds going to lower interest rates? Are they not? Are these things going to happen? So I think what we concentrate on is the best planning that we can do and leave, of course, you have to consider all the other factors that we're trying to do, but guessing tends to not work out too well. So I think just sticking to trying to do the best planning that we can and see where that takes us and then adjust our plans as we need to.
So
And
it's not
knowing that, hey, this is what we were anticipating at this point in time, and that's not the way it turned out. So we're gonna adjust. And I think that's with every plan. I think if you do a plan and you never look at it and change it, then we're going to be in a world of hurt because not everything is going to turn out as we've anticipated at a point in time. That's a plan, that's zoning, that's anything that we do. It's, there's just so many things beyond our control, so.
So it's not going to be like a Hollywood rezone, kind of like Field of Dreams. If you rezone it, they will come.
I don't think that's worked out in the past, but
Not for
it
us, I
could
know, but-
happen. But, things do happen, and you can not plan and just let things happen, or, just come what may.
That's been, honestly, that's been the history of the city, and it's not really worked out.
Yeah, it doesn't usually work out that
mean,
well. Or you can try to have some good things in place, so when people do want to come here and develop, that we're doing good development.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do.
I can think of decades of missed opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, going back almost to the founding of the city, even before that, just, inflection points in time is like, if the city had only done something. You know, wasn't necessarily, you know, malicious inaction. It maybe just wasn't on the radar, or, you know, they didn't think about it. And it's just, now looking back, it's like, oh man, if we'd only done this, if we'd only done that, you know.
Yeah.
I hate to say how long that list is when I start to think about it, you know, having been here long enough to see some of that stuff in person, but then just to realize, oh, I mean, those were decisions that were made at the founding of the city. And it's just like, oh,
Sure.
if they had just done something different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I call it coulda, woulda, shoulda, type stuff that, you know, so I think we continue to do the best planning we can do. We put in the standards and think about the future of the city that we want to see, even if we're here or not here.
Right.
And I think it's going to be better than if we just throw our hands in the air and say, oh, you know, oh, geez.
See what pops up.
Oh, geez, we don't have any street to go to that development. So, yeah.
all right, anybody else got any questions, comments?
Just thinking through some of that, and as I drive through the city day to day, and then as we think about this, I am curious, are we supposed to have another infill station, or are we only going to have one? Like, in assuming this, and I say this from my engineering backgrounds, having seen some of the actual drawings and plans, they clearly did not design for an infill station to occur at 220th in the same way that they've clearly designed 130th.
Yeah. So I would say there was a desire by the community to have an infill station at 220th.
Not just us, Edmonds too.
Yeah,
They
well,
really wanted
Edmonds was, really pushed it. There is still a desire by some elected officials and others to do an infill station there. There are two schools of thought whether that is going to happen or not. So I'll leave it at that, but yeah.
I bring that up in the sense that when we think about all this, we probably should assume there's only going to be one station, right?
That would be my train of thought,
yeah.
but I do know that there's a desire to have a station there.
Yeah.
I would just say, if I look at it from a bystander position, and you look at spacing along light rail in every community, including Seattle and all over the Puget Sound, there are no two stations that are as close as what that station would be in between Linwood and Mountlake Terrace. So I would ask myself, if that is not occurring in places like Seattle, with larger densities or other places, what is the likelihood that we're going to get it? Also, due to the fact that there are real budgetary concerns of them even getting to Everett in all of our lifetimes. So, not just mine. So I would just say, you know, these big transportation projects are billions of dollars. And they say, here's the cost of this, and here's the timeline for this. And as we know, it takes a very, very, very long time to make these a reality.
Yeah.
And
I've worked on some of the South Sound stuff, and having seen all that, there isn't even enough space the way that it's designed with, you know, basically a, you know, you got bridge girders going up and then a very small amount of on grade, and then it goes back into flying over the street. Seems to me, if I were to put my engineering hat on but not stamp anything, I would say that's probably impossible for them to do that on an infrastructure project at this point, if they haven't already planned it in.
I would say there's a desire. I think Sound Transit is really wishy-washy when they're asked about it. which usually I always say it's like a parent response. We'll see, honey, that, which means no. So that's how I got.
I would imagine it's more of a prove it with density, and then maybe we'll build it.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
so,
but,
I mean,
yeah.
maybe. I just think it would be a very, very, very long time.
There has been other consideration, very different uses of that land though, right? I think I've seen some plans that have considered it like possible future park or other, I mean, I think then Sound Transit would probably either sell that back to the city or whatever it may be, but I think that they've considered other uses of that space. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, it's been zoned commercial, then there was conversation of not only a station there, but then there was, oh, well, we want to put a maintenance facility here, and the city fought back pretty hard on that. There was an affordable housing planned at one time. There is some property next to that piece that is going to be given back to the city for the start of a park over on the west side. I like to call it Dootlinger Park, who was a planner, Edith, that was here for years and wanted a park on the west side of the city, so I call it that. But there's not much to it, but it could be added to as a little linear park.
Just like along the street there?
Yep.
That it's going to abut the sound wall?
Yep,
Oh, that's exciting.
yeah, so that's where the trees along the sound wall.
Yeah,
That
the
was a-
trees that they're
That
working
was
on
a
that.
requirement by staff,
Yeah.
just anticipating at
Yeah.
least to get something going where we could add some more property to it. Because other than Ballinger Park, there's really no park on the west side for all the residents over there. So it's really lacking to get some of those things, even if it's, hey, I'm going to take my dog across the street, or I can sit on a couple of park benches, or,
Yeah.
as a start. So that was the thought process for that as well.
That's cool. I think even that property, if it's not going to be an infill station, which seems unlikely, I mean, there's still like, we're talking about being another node or another area of activity in the city, like.
Yeah,
It is
it's fairly large.
a fairly large piece of property
Yeah,
that could
yeah.
be reimagined into something that could
Yeah,
really
absolutely. And I
make
think
that area
that's
vibrant.
something that we're going to need to do as part of that sub-area.
Yeah.
What is that going to be? So in the existing zoning map, it's zoned commercial, and the existing land use map for the comp plan, it's commercial. So is
Those are
that,
the changes that we made in
yeah,
08, 7.
so,
More controversial back then. Now it's just like changes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
people are. It's amazing, a generational change in terms of, hey, we're upzoning instead of torches and pitchforks. Great, it's about time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's different, but I've already been on the record many times on this, so I don't
Yeah,
feel any need to hold my tongue. You were asking about it, and it comes down to political clout. Smaller cities, especially in Snohomish County, just don't have the political clout with Sound Transit as the larger cities do. 130th got their infill station because a city council member threatened to hold up her support for it. One city council member of one city was able to, had enough clout to get an infill station at 130th. And right now, there is nothing dense at 130th. It's the freeway, golf course, and not much else. So I think even though because they did that, that station isn't opening up with the rest of the Linwood Link line, but they designed it and are building it right now.
They're building it as a shell, because
Yeah.
we did that. I used to work for a company called Berger A-Band way back in the day when we were doing the Rainier. We did Rainier and Othello. And originally Rainier was going to be an infill on grade. And they built it, but then they got funding to build it all out. But part of that, I remember in the design process, you actually, the way that all of that concrete is built, if you haven't designed it in when it's installed for infill, the likelihood of being able to actually incorporate that. You'd have to shut the whole line down for a year, 2 years to build it. And so when it goes through my head and I see that, I'm like, it's not a realistic probability, even with all the money in the world, even if we had
Right.
$20 million to say, hey guys, we'll fund it. To me, it almost seems an impossibility. But yeah, I guess, and I'm just wondering, like, as we think about sub-area planning,
Yeah,
what is that area going to look like?
Yeah.
Most likely it's going to be without a hub, but probably with transit that feeds people, or even connector trails that might get people down there.
Well, and I think that's just important. I think if, given its location, specifically Melody Hill, where that, kind of what we're talking about here, it's proximity, to the freeway and to the other light rail stations. And the fact that there's already a commercial center there, the opportunity for the density to increase quite a bit is there. If the density comes, that helps the argument for a station, though how improbable it may seem at the time. I think Edmonds will always still be for it.
yeah,
It would be the closest station for them. It was nice. Actually, all the Linwood was for it too. So it wasn't just Edmonds. It was all of us, but all the cities together. Just they didn't have the clout, but I don't think that should stop us from trying to plan for if it were to happen in the future. Who knows how technology will change? I know, like for me, I always was thinking it more of being over 220th, like it is over 236, as opposed to be sort of further south. So, not being so wedded to one specific location in that area. Again, though, it's not something that, even like I said, all the money in the world, it's not something we're going to see in the near future. But my thought is plan as if it's still a possibility. And if it comes, great. If it doesn't, well, we've got a great dense neighborhood that is still close to transit and connectivity. So
My only counter to that would be, the other option is something more like an open space, if it's, or not open space, but something that's a little more community oriented.
yeah.
Well,
I guess I'm
give it
thinking
back to the city, rather than upzoning it or keeping it as commercial, because we think that there's going to be light rail. So
I guess
in my mind, it's two completely different ways almost of looking at that area.
So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about as the sub area as a whole, not just that one,
Just that lot.
not the actual Melody Hill site. I'm thinking sort of beyond that. So yeah, don't think that what I'm saying is like, oh no, we need to specifically do X, Y, and Z with this specific parcel. No, I'm thinking more holistically.
Is that Melody Hill? Or is that,
that's Melody Hill.
it is?
Yeah,
That's the
Even
only,
though technically, I think it's on the south side?
it's where the elementary school was, yeah.
yeah, Melody Hill
That is
Elementary.
It's Melody Hill, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the line was 220.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, my comments are sort of sub, that area as a whole, not just that parcel, so.
Okay,
Anyone else?
I'm just glad I'm not the only one that thinks that something should happen there.
All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and move on to Director's Report.
okay. So other things that are occurring, Sound Transit has tentatively scheduled the bus loop at the station to open this Thursday. And they've been given permission to do so with a couple of engineering matters still to be worked out this week, as well as the signals, traffic signals and such. But tentatively, if you see buses being looped through the station area this Thursday, then that's what's going on. That's not opening up the actual station itself in any way. That is purely starting to move buses through that particular area. There are several improvements and things that need to be addressed still in order to open up the station itself. So that's just the bus loop. On April 2nd, there is going to be a public open house by City Council to get community input on what the community's budget priorities are. That is from 6 to 8 in this room on April 2nd. And then on April 20th, there is a Arbor Day event for volunteering on Arbor Day, and there will be a recognition for boards and commissions on that day as well. It's on a Saturday. I believe that begins at 1 o'clock. You guys will be getting more information on that very shortly as to what's happening that day. I will be there in attendance as well. And then, I don't know, some of you probably know Ken Courtmonch, and Ken is retiring from the city. I just thought some people would be interested. May 3rd is his last day. There's going to be a reception here at City Hall, 38 years with the city. So some of our longtime folks that are in that 30, 40-year range sadly are retiring. I always say that it's going to take 2 people to replace Ken. He is one of those people behind the scenes that does so much, and most people don't realize that, but he is awesome. And so, yeah, May 3rd is his last day. So if anybody wants to come get a free piece of cake or say anything about Ken, I believe the reception's from 2 to 4 here at City Hall as well. So that's all I have. Like I said, there's this and that going on, and I'll be giving you some more information, but we'll get that recognition day information to you guys as soon as we possibly can. That's being worked on through the city manager's office as well, and parks for Arbor Day. So something's usually done, tree planting or community cleanup, and that type of thing as part of Arbor Day event as well. So that's that. Any questions from me on any doings that you're curious about? Not that, oh, go ahead.
I saw an article, I think in the Mountlake Terrace News, not the city planning, but there's an actual MLT News. Looks like we didn't get the underground wiring through the city council. They're reworking that or something? That didn't get passed?
Was that last council meeting?
I don't know. It looked, if I'm not mistaken, it looked like it was from December.
Oh.
But, but a lot of other information in it was current, so I'm not sure how the.
Okay, I'm not aware of
Okay.
that.
Yeah, it looks like somebody on the council wants more.
Information?
Wants us to look at it more.
Okay, I can try to find out about what that is. I know for Main Street Phase 2, utilities are getting done as part of that project now, and all undergrounding as well.
Yeah.
So I'll find out. You think it was from December?
Yeah, so the MLTnews.com is where the article is, which
Okay.
really bizarre to me because it says it's posted December 7th, 2022, but all the information in this article is from 2023. It talks about funding that's going on in the budget for 2023 and 2024. And then I get down to the last paragraph and it says, looks like, is it Mayor Pro Tem Ryan? Is that his name? Proposed an amendment to the staff amendment to the staff proposal to raise thresholds to apply to the combined structure and property, seconded by Woodard.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. That
Okay.
was in 22. So
Okay.
there was a requirement, that was CED department, actually. That was our stuff. So there was a requirement previously that if, we have a lot of electrical panels in the city that are
Okay.
not good. They're from the 1970s.
Zenco.
Thank you. And so
Thank you.
what was happening is in order for people to replace those, they had to underground from their house out to the street. And that was adding a lot of cost in some cases for people to replace their panels. In a lot of cases, we had people that had panels in their bathrooms, out in the weather, just really bad situations. And so what we did was we loosened that requirement so we could address the life safety issues of not requiring undergrounding from the house to the street in certain circumstances unless you went over a higher threshold, like you're doing a really substantial remodel or something like that. Then you would have to upgrade to a certain level. But if you're trying to correct a situation or doing some minor stuff, then we took that requirement away for people to have to underground. So just thought it was better for people to be safe and take care of that stuff versus we're saying, no, don't do it, and then somebody has a house fire or something bad happens, and we don't want that to happen. So, yeah, that was actually from 22.
I thought so.
Are you doing your research?
Well, every once in a while, I do social media. And so every once in a while, I remember, oh, yeah, there's that thing, that
Yes,
MLTL.
so that did, they did want more information, and staff went back to them, and there was some concern that I think we were trying to make things more difficult, and in fact, we were trying to make them less restrictive in that particular case.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked a lot about that, so.
Yeah.
What more did they say no? I mean, I must have yacked for 3 meetings straight on that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a happy meeting, that, a compromise that we came to, so, yeah. So, and since then, I mean, I haven't heard any negative pushback on that whatsoever, actually, so I think it's doing what we intended it to do.
So I got a question. You may know the answer or may not. And I don't pay attention to it every year, so this might have changed. But it used to be that reappointment forms for boards and commissions were usually due by May, and now it appears they're due in March. Do you know, was there any reason for that change? Is it just logistics or?
Yeah, I'm not aware of why that was. I think just trying to get, before people were just automatically reappointed to all boards and commissions. And I think council had asked that they had an opportunity to talk with people prior to the reappointment. So I think instead of waiting till the last minute to have that happen, they kind of pushed it up to go through that. So asking people to follow, I think what was always in place, that you asked if you'd like to continue to be reappointed to the board or commission, and then all of those names are taken into consideration, and it goes like that. So I think they were just trying to do some type of process. So.
Okay. Because
Maybe not last minute.
maybe that's it, because I know, for years, the, boards and commissioners, they still had to fill out the form. It just was due in May, not in March.
Right. So you probably, I think you're up.
Yeah.
So,
That's why it's on my radar.
Okay, well, yeah, and I mean, so I think that's what they're trying to do, is just be more proactive, so it flows a little smoother than like, oh my gosh, last minute, or we have vacancies and then we're not able to fill vacancies in a timely manner. If somebody decides that they don't want to be reappointed, or, that type of thing. So just giving more time to make sure that the boards and commissions are fully accounted for.
I just don't want to have another situation like what happened to Miguel.
I know.
No, trust me, I feel that too.
Yeah, I think lessons have been learned from that.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I know I got one email. And that was it.
okay,
So, and it was to that email that, you guys made us create during the pandemic.
and if you don't look at
If you
it
don't
like
look
I
at it.
wouldn't, yeah,
Because
then
that
you
email is
don't
like
know.
tied directly to the city-issued tablet that you gave me,
Yeah,
so I could hold the Zoom meetings, but since we don't have Zoom meetings anymore,
right,
I don't use the tablet, which means
Yeah.
I don't,
yeah,
I just happened to think, oh, I wonder when that's happening, and I lucked out and saw the email and was like,
okay.
oh, okay.
I'm going to circle
glad you
back
saw
on
it.
that to make sure that there's more than one notice, because, I mean, I know that there was more than one notice last time, but I think just, making a phone call, doing, just trying to do the most that you can
If someone
for
hasn't
people that are
responded.
currently serving, because it's easy to miss an email.
Yeah, everybody's got something going on.
Worth just doing in a meeting. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it's not for us to make that decision. It's a council decision. That's why, but still,
But the
it's like,
response, rather than respond
Yeah.
to email,
Yeah.
whatever input you need.
Yeah.
Individually, we could probably just,
Yeah.
yeah,
sessions.
Part of that, there's a little disconnect too, because it's the city clerk that sort of manages that process as opposed to planning staff. So
Yes.
sometimes one hand doesn't know what the other,
right. And we've had change in the clerk position too. So Virginia, who was our clerk for years, did things a certain way as well. And so
yeah.
it's different with that change. So I think it was just all of that change was,
Happened all at the same time.
yeah,
Okay.
with the Miguel situation, so.
Because I even got that email that time too, and I'm not up till 26, but I responded to it anyway. I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, we don't want that to happen again if somebody wants to continue to serve, so.
I noticed that, I can't tell you when this came, but it looks like there's we're gonna have a State of the City address, and I was wondering if everybody from we're gonna have one on May 7th, it looks like.
Yeah, and so, again, I'm not part of the planning for
Yeah.
that, but I know that I believe there were invitations sent out from the clerk's office on that as well,
Yeah,
a State of the City address. And as far as I know, I mean, maybe there was a State of the City done a long time ago for Mountlake Terrace.
It's not ringing any bells to me.
It's typical that cities do a State of the City on an annual basis. I just don't know how many years it's been since the city of Mountlake Terrace has done something like that. So, but that's pretty common.
yeah.
So, there you go. Do you have a time for us,
I do.
Janine?
According to this, it's going to be on Tuesday, May 7th, here in Mountlake Terrace City Hall, and from 6 to 8. And because it's on my calendar now, I was trying to see if I can look through my sent emails to see when I responded to it. And I can't see that right now on the tablet here. And apparently, we're not supposed to socialize it. I mean, we can talk amongst ourselves, but I feel like they sent it just to me. Deneen, don't put this on Facebook.
Oh,
They didn't say
is
that, but that's what it felt
okay.
like. Yeah, so we can talk amongst ourselves, but I guess apparently we're
Yeah,
not supposed
sure.
to put it on social media.
Okay. Probably just because
Limited space. I think.
limited space, yeah, I would imagine is
Yeah.
the thing.
See if I can figure out when it came.
We'll see if they top us in the food and treat department. I don't think so. Right, Shannon? We won't let them beat us with the food and drink we provide for State of
We
the
provide the
City.
best food.
What's that?
We provide the best food.
Yeah, of course we do. Okay.
Of course you do.
So we're competitive in that arena. I am anyways.
Does anybody else have any questions? Checking in with our online commissioner?
No questions.
All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to miscellaneous business by call of planning commissioners. Anybody have any miscellaneous business?
I need to be excused from the April 22nd meeting.
No, okay.
I'm sorry, I have family visiting, and it's going to be their last night here,
No.
so.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion to excuse Commissioner Stetson from the April 22nd meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. You have an excused absence for April 22nd.
Thank you. I do have a question, just because I was looking ahead. I think our second meeting in May is on Memorial Day. Will we still have it that day?
Or do we move it?
It'll typically be moved a day to
Oh,
The next business day
to
is
the
usually-
Tuesday.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's on our calendar yet, but it would typically be moved.
Okay.
And I would anticipate that we wouldn't cancel just because we need to,
The workload.
yeah, let me see what we got going on my huge. I don't have planning.
I have the commission schedule pulled up if that helps.
Okay, yeah. Did we move that to Tuesday?
Currently, it is listed for May 27th, which is the Monday. So no, we have not officially discussed
So
moving it quite yet.
on here, it looks like we have it on the 28th already, of where we have you meeting on the 13th and the 28th, which would be that Tuesday.
Okay, so we just bump it to the following.
We would bump it, yeah, to that next day.
Anybody else miscellaneous business?
Or any of us going to join the DEI training that's not mandatory for commissions, but voluntary? I was just wondering.
Was there a time picked for it?
There,
There was like a bunch of options. And
yeah,
then-
there were a few options. April 16th from 6:30 to 8:30. April 17th from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. The first one was p.m., by the way, of course. Then there was also April 17th from 1 to, this screen is just not big enough. Oh, there we go. 1 to 3 p.m. That's the one I'm going to attend. And then there's also April 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. I think it's mandatory for staff, but not mandatory for commissions, but I thought I'd attend
Correct,
anyway.
yeah, so staff, it's mandatory, all staff is going to be doing the training, and then there are some of us, I'm being interviewed this Friday, so some of us are going through an interview process as well, so that's occurring right now. So yes, you're encouraged to take part in that training if you can.
Oh, those are all available times? I thought they were picking a date.
Well, I replied that I can make it on the 17th, and I got a reply back that says, okay, we got you for the 17th. So let's see here, please.
Yeah, I think there's various times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just due to the, staff alone, just trying to fit everybody into training. So usually when there's an all-city mandatory training, usually there's 3 or 4 times, so you can catch everybody and keep city business open as well.
Anybody else? Any miscellaneous business? I guess I got one. We had our presentation to city council, was it like a week ago? 2 weeks ago? I don't know. I got a haircut, I shaved,
Last week.
I wore a suit. I was like, wow. What's going on? And I walk in and everybody else is just kind of, oh.
I know.
I was just like, felt a little overdressed.
Made us look really good, so thank you.
So, yeah, it was Different format this year. Usually the boards and commissions just meet on separate days. Sometimes there might be one or two on the same day, but for the most part, it's kind of spread out, and council decided to have everybody go this year. They really liked it. They thought it was great. Having been to quite a few of these, I felt that there weren't as many questions asked. I don't know if that's just because we're so entrenched in the comp plan. Part of me thought it was more just because we were second to last. And I'm like, well, if you're going to make everybody go, then we'll go last because we do the most stuff and, end it on a high note though. But, they kind of, were very thankful for everybody's hard work, for all the different boards and commissions. But yeah, I mean, there have been times where we've done our presentation to council and it's gone an hour because not only are we talking about all this, here's what we did this last year, here's our current work plan. Then it's literally like everybody goes down the line saying, something that they want, and then all the council asks questions. And so it could really, and so I noticed that wasn't necessarily the case this time around. So I don't know, it could be a lot of different reasons, but I thought mostly I was thinking it's because everybody was going on the same night, and it's just, they had other business to do afterwards, and it was just like, oh, let's keep it short and sweet. And of course, you always think that what we do is important. You want to talk about it. You hope they have questions about it. And, there were a few questions. It was, I did notice that it did not go as long as it normally did. So, but it seems like council really liked having everybody do it on the same night. So this might be the plan moving forward, but it was good. A couple of us were there, so.
Appreciate that, yeah.
I do too. And I was there because I put the alarm on my phone. When the alarm went off, I was like, what is that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to be somewhere.
Well, I appreciate that because I wasn't able to be there with you guys, so thank you for,
Yeah, the assistant
shitting.
city manager helped out and,
yeah.
Yeah.
kind of
Let's hope.
introduced us and, talked over the, the sort of the city presentation part of it, and then, allowed us to talk, so.
I think you guys did a good job. They made me talk. I didn't know what to say, so I just did a bunch of thank yous.
All right. One last call. Anybody else? Yes? No? No? All right. Not hearing or seeing anything, so go ahead and declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Recording stopped.